Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at something that honestly redefines how we think about sports and business. We're opening up Jeff Benedict's definitive biography, simply titled LeBron.
Yeah, and it is such a timely exploration right now
Absolutely.
because you look at the NBA today and we're seeing LeBron gear up for his 24th season, which is just wild.
Mind-blowing, honestly.
Right, and everyone is talking about this looming second major decision regarding his playing future. And to understand why his dominance and this exact moment of leverage was basically inevitable, you have to look at the blueprint he built.
Exactly. For you listening, this deep dive is not a recap of basketball box scores. We are decoding the business mastermind behind the brand. We want to extract the leadership and wealth-building lessons that turned a fatherless kid from Akron into a billionaire global icon.
Which is quite the leap.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start with a contrast. Usually when we talk about a major corporate merger or a CEO moving to a new Fortune 500 company, discretion is everything.
Oh, yeah. You sign the paperwork behind closed doors.
You issue a sterile press release, you let the market react. But imagine if a CEO announced a hostile corporate takeover live on a reality TV dating show.
It would break every single rule of business etiquette. It would be a self-inflicted PR disaster of epic proportion.
Right. And yet, that is essentially what happened on July 8, 2010. Benedict paints this vivid picture. Picture black SUVs pulling up to a Boys and Girls Club in Greenwich, Connecticut, generators humming, satellite trucks everywhere.
Fans just screaming outside.
Yeah, and inside, a 25-year-old LeBron utters the words that made him the most hated athlete in America. I'm going to take my talents to South Beach.
The backlash was just nuclear. People were literally burning his jerseys in the streets.
I remember watching that.
And Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavaliers, published that furious, unhinged letter in Comic Sans font.
Comic Sans. I always looked at that TV special as pure CEO self-sabotage. Like, why did a team of such savvy guys think that format was a good idea?
The initial idea actually came from wanting to do some good while controlling the narrative. His business partner, Maverick Carter, worked with a Hollywood strategist. The plan was to bypass traditional media, own the announcement, and raise millions for charity.
Which they did do.
They did, but they severely underestimated the emotional connection the public had to the traditional sports narrative of loyalty.
Severely.
But Benedict points out that this fallout was a crucible. It taught LeBron his most valuable PR lessons. And to understand why he needed to control that narrative and why he builds these super teams with his friends, we have to go back to his childhood.
Yeah, the extreme instability in Akron. The book details how he was born to a 16-year-old single mother, never knew his dad, and when his grandmother died right before he turned 3, his safety net just vanished.
It's staggering. They lived like nomads, sleeping on couches, moving between unheated apartments.
Just constant survival mode.
Right. In the 4th grade alone, LeBron missed nearly 100 days of school.
100 days, that's more than half the year.
Simply because they had no reliable transportation. He was a scared kid, listening to police sirens, terrified his mom wouldn't come home.
And then a Pee Wee football coach gets him on a team, and eventually Frankie Walker intervenes. The Walkers actually take 9-year-old LeBron in, give him structure, bedtimes, chores, and they introduce him to basketball.
Which leads him to Coach Drew Joyce II. And there's this specific quote from Coach Drew in the book that is just, it alters LeBron's entire trajectory.
What was it?
He pulls him aside and says, "Bron, if you pass the ball, everyone is going to want to play with you."
Man, that is so loaded when you think about his background.
Because it tapped into this profound void. LeBron's legendary on-court unselfishness and his loyalty to his inner circle, they weren't just basketball strategies. Benedict suggests they were a trauma response to abandonment.
He built a family on the court because he didn't have one off it.
Exactly. He was terrified of alienating people, so sharing the spotlight meant he would always be wanted.
I want to push back on the traditional sports narrative here, though. For years, sports radio crushed him for passing in clutch moments. They said he lacked the killer instinct of a Jordan or a Kobe. But based on this, is it possible this isn't about lacking competitive edge? Could it actually be a deep-seated need to avoid being the selfish guy who pushes his peers away?
The biographical evidence absolutely supports that. His need for a dependable unit drove everything. It's why he formed the Fab Five in high school and insisted they stay together.
And then he does the exact same thing as a pro.
Right. He surrounds himself with his childhood friends, Maverick Carter, Rich Paul, Randy Mims, the Four Horsemen. He created a fiercely loyal family structure.
He didn't just distribute the ball on the court, he distributed the power off the court to those guys.
Yeah.
Which brings us to LRMR management.
Yes. Back then, standard practice was to hire a slick agent in a tailored suit. But LeBron fires his traditional agent and puts his 20-something friends in charge.
Which seems wildly risky. Rich Paul was literally selling vintage jerseys out of the trunk of his car when they met. Was this arrogant teenage hubris or a calculated masterstroke to avoid industry vultures?
Benedict argues it was a calculated masterstroke. LeBron knew conventional agents looked out for their own massive client rosters. By installing his friends, he guaranteed absolute loyalty.
And he gave them the runway to learn.
And they learned fast. Look at the famous sneaker negotiation before he even graduated high school. Reebok sits him at a table and puts a physical check for $10 million right in front of him.
$10 million.
Yeah.
Just sitting there for an 18-year-old kid who grew up in poverty.
Right. And they said he could take it as long as he promised not to meet with Nike or Adidas. The total deal was $100 million.
For you listening, if you've ever had to choose between a massive immediate payday and long-term equity in your own career, this is the ultimate case study because he walks away from that check.
He leaves the $10 million, turns down Reebok's $100 million, and takes a $90 million deal from Nike.
He took less money.
He took less because Nike offered a connection to the Michael Jordan legacy and long-term brand building. He understood association over immediate cash.
And he sought out mentors to refine that, like Warren Buffett. The book mentions a private meeting in Omaha where Buffett tells him to invest in index funds and, quote, own a piece of America.
That phrase completely shifted their business paradigm, from traditional endorsements to actual equity.
Let's expand on that difference because it's huge. Endorsements are like renting an apartment. You get a flat fee to live there and make the place look good. But if the building's value triples, you still just get your flat fee.
Right, but taking equity is like being the real estate developer.
Exactly.
So he partners with Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre to take an equity stake in Beats by Dre.
Which means when his cultural influence drives the brand's valuation up, he gets the developer's cut. When Apple bought Beats for $3 billion, LeBron didn't get a standard endorsement check. He got a reported $30 million payout.
And he applied that exact same developer mindset, leverage, and ownership to the NBA front office.
The GM mindset.
Exactly. Let's revisit 2010. Going to Miami wasn't just about playing with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. He went to learn championship infrastructure from Pat Riley.
He realized waiting for Cleveland's front office to magically build a team was wasting his physical prime. So he learned how to win, got 2 rings, and then we get to 2014 and the return to Cleveland.
And notice the PR shift. No disastrous TV special, just a masterful, heartfelt essay in Sports Illustrated written with Lee Jenkins.
It was controlled perfectly. But I'm skeptical of the romantic narrative there. The essay paints this beautiful prodigal son story. But wasn't this essentially a cold corporate takeover disguised as a homecoming? Cleveland had hoarded #1 draft picks, so they had the assets to build a super team right then.
The emotional drive was real, but yes, the execution was pure corporate raider. He acted as a shadow GM. Before even signing, he's calling Kevin Love, orchestrating trades, but the real genius was the contract structure.
The 1+1 deals.
Yeah.
1-year renewable contracts. How does signing a short-term deal actually give a player power over a billionaire owner?
His market value far exceeded the NBA's artificial max salary limit. If he signed a 4-year deal, the owner gets complacent. They stop spending into the luxury tax.
Because they own his rights for half a decade.
Right. But by signing a 1-year deal with a player option, he effectively evaluates the front office's performance every single June.
Wow.
If Dan Gilbert didn't trade for the right pieces or pay the tax, LeBron could just opt out and leave. He legally handcuffed the front office into a constant win-now mode.
He proved true power is holding ownership financially accountable. And that leverage leads to the 2016 chase down block, Cleveland's first title in 52 years. He fulfills his promise.
And because of that contract flexibility, his 2018 move to the Lakers was seamless.
No TV special, no magazine essay, just a single-sentence press release from Rich Paul's agency.
And Dan Gilbert, who wrote the Comic Sans letter, puts out a statement profusely thanking him and promising to retire his jersey, a complete reversal of power.
Which brings us to his physical longevity as he preps for season 24. That financial leverage let him invest millions into his own biology.
Right. He treats his body like a Fortune 500 R&D department.
We're talking a reported $1.5 million a year on hyperbaric chambers, biometric tracking, personal chefs. He recognized his body was the core asset of the holding company.
And once he secured the business empire, got the Ohio ring, and optimized his body, He realized he could use this immense leverage off the court for societal change.
Los Angeles gave him the cultural power to expand Spring Hill entertainment, supercharging his activism.
For decades, the rule for athletes was the Michael Jordan rule. Republicans buy sneakers too. Keep your head down, collect checks. LeBron rejected that.
He opened the I Promise School in Akron, offering wraparound services and college scholarships. And he got very vocal politically, like in 2016 boycotting the Trump Soho Hotel.
Which led to other clients pulling out and the Trump name being removed from the property.
And he posted the famous "You Bum" tweet. Now, just to be completely clear for you listening, we're not taking any political sides here. We aren't endorsing the views in those boycotts or tweets.
Right. We're strictly unpacking the historical events in Benedict's book to see how he wielded his brand's influence.
Exactly.
The takeaway is how he handled the pushback. When a TV personality told him to shut up and dribble, he didn't put out a defensive statement. He trademarked the phrase and turned it into a documentary series for his own media company.
When I think of athlete activist, I think of Muhammad Ali. But Ali sacrificed his prime earning years for a moral protest. Is LeBron's activism fundamentally different because he weaponizes capitalism instead of risking his career?
That is the defining evolution here. Ali sacrificed his economic power for his voice. LeBron uses his economic power to amplify his voice.
Because he's his own media conglomerate.
Exactly. He doesn't have to ask a network for airtime. He greenlights a series through Spring Hill. He showed future athletes you can champion social justice without hurting your bottom line. It's activism fueled by equity.
Let's bring all this together. We started with a 25-year-old making a disastrous TV announcement. Now facing a historic 24th season. With unprecedented front office leverage, we see the full picture. Breaking Kareem's scoring record isn't just a sports story.
No, it's a masterclass in leverage, loyalty, and brand building. For the listener, the takeaway from Benedict's book is the true definition of equity. It's not just owning stocks, it's demanding ownership over your narrative, controlling your career, and refusing to be treated as an employee when you generate the value.
He didn't just want a seat at the billionaire's table. He bought the room.
He really did.
He started out being offered money to rent the apartment and ended up owning the high-rise. And that leaves us with one final provocative thought for you to mull over today. If a fatherless kid from Akron who missed 100 days of school in the 4th grade could rewrite the power dynamics of a multi-billion-dollar league just by recognizing his worth and refusing to leave his friends behind, what archaic system or power dynamic in your own industry is just waiting for someone to call its bluff?